Everybody, JayC here, and welcome to another Tuesday live stream. And it looks like we've got people in the house already with Space Balls. Welcome, Space, or Mr. Balls, however you want to refer to yourself. Michael's in the house. What's up? Bean. Always good to see the familiar faces. Silver Surfer, good to see you. So, I don't actually have a whole lot specific to talk about tonight. I thought we'd talk about the new McFarlane Toy Accessory Pack that was just announced today. We knew it was coming because he mentioned it. I think it was in Chartimus Prime's interview. Todd mentioned this was something they were going to be doing. Colt Seavers is in the house. The Fall Guy, what's up? Rylex 2.0. So anyway, I thought we would talk about that maybe. I also, I figure we could probably talk a little bit about things like the Moon Knight series. It's been long enough. I think we can talk about that. Maybe Doctor Strange. I don't know. Maybe we should wait until like Thursday to talk about Doctor Strange. But, and then whatever else is on our minds. I do want to, I want to talk a little bit about, I don't know how many of you guys actively read comic books these days, but I'm curious if anyone has read the Devil's Reign storyline from Marvel Comics. I actually ended up reading that last night. I started out with deciding to read one of the spin-off series for it, the Devil's Reign Villains for Hire, because it had my boy US Agent in it, and I thought that looked interesting. So I started out reading that, and that kind of got me into, okay, well, I guess I got to go read the whole Devil's Reign, the main story. I didn't read like all the crossover titles, but I did go and read the actual main Devil's Reign. But I was just curious. I wanted to know what you guys thought of that story, and also I just had some questions because I don't read a lot of modern comics anymore. I do not, as much as I used to love reading comic books, I don't read them a lot that much these days, in large part because they're just so expensive. I mean, it was like $5 an issue to read the Devil's Reign. I spent like, between the main story, which was like 6 issues, and the Villains for Hire, which was like another 5 issues, I think. I mean, I spent like $60 to read this story. I mean, it was like crazy. But my questions were, so I'm trying to think now. So like, just a couple things that, like, Peter Parker is no longer Spider-Man. Once again, Ben Reilly's back at being Spider-Man again. I kind of knew that because I remember posting something about Ben Reilly returning, but I'm just curious what happened to Peter this time. And Doc Ock's back. Last time I saw him in the comics, he was Superior Spider-Man, and then he had gotten killed off again. So I was kind of not surprised, because nobody ever stays dead in the comics, but I saw him back in his own body, per se, though he brought in, like, from another universe, other versions of Superior Doc Ock, like a Wolverine version, a Hulk version, and a Ghost Rider version. And then there was another young Spider-Man, and I don't know if that was supposed to be Miles Morales. He was part of the Champions team. It wasn't a costume I was familiar with. He had looked like he had like a jacket where like it was all the way zipped up, and it was like the collar of the jacket was like covering half his face. So I mean, it was obviously a younger Spider-Man, but I wasn't sure. They never addressed him by name in the comic. So, and again, I wasn't familiar with the outfit, so I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be like the Miles Morales in a new costume, or if that's some other Spider-Man. Okay, Ben is now Chasm. All right. Well, he wasn't in this story. I mean, I don't. I mean, this story, the Devil's Reign, he wasn't. I mean, it hasn't been that long since it came out. I don't think. But so Peter's back to being Spider. In this comic, Ben Riley was, and he had another new Spider-Man costume. Was kind of like the original costume, but the spider was like over here on his chest, and it went like down. Okay, so that young Spider-Man was Miles Morales. So that was my feeling since I knew Miles was part of the Champions and it was younger. But I agree. I don't know what they were thinking with that costume. Look, yeah, that was not an improvement costume wise. I like the story was building up really good. I was like, yeah, this is actually a pretty good story. And then it just kind of fizzled out to me. Like I love the idea of like US agent leading the Thunderbolts. And I even like, I like the idea that Wilson Fisk had been mayor and then and created a new Thunderbolts to basically police New York City. So I like the whole setup for the story. And I even liked how they tied into like with the Purple Man and like going all the way back to the old Emperor Doom graphic novel where Doom had captured Purple Man and basically used him to imprison the minds of everybody on Earth and rule the planet for a little bit. I actually have that graphic novel somewhere. So I liked how they like went all the way back to an old story like that. But but then it just kind of, I don't know, petered out like at the end there. It was just like, and it seemed to like really not have any point. Like, is Luke Cage the mayor of New York City now? That seemed, they kind of set that up, but did he win the election? Hey Mike, what's up? Yeah, right now we're just talking a little bit of comics. I just had some questions about a story I read last night, so I was just some of you more regular comic book readers. I was trying to get you to kind of bring me up to speed on a few things. Oh yeah, and when did Electro become a female? That was another one. I was like, but I don't know, if anything really long term happened with Devil's Reign. Why Elektra is wearing a female Daredevil costume. That was a little weird. Um, but I would love to see them kind of continue the whole Thunderbolts thing with U.S. Agent leading. I thought that actually it kind of ended like basically they all got mesmerized by Purple Man's kids, and then it just kind of all fell apart. But and yeah, the main thing that reminded me why I don't really read comics a whole lot anymore is just like I said, I think I spent like $60 to read the those two stories. And it was like, yeah, not really worth it. All right, so let's get into, I guess, the main topic of tonight, and that was the announcement earlier today of the new munitions pack or accessory pack from McFarlane Toys Weapons Pack. So obviously this is kind of a generic, not for any particular brand, though, with their images they show Spawn figures because obviously they can't use DC figures. But we all know that this is primarily for those who wanted guns to go with certain DC members, whether it's, Deathstroke, whether it's Red Hood. And they seem to give you a pretty nice range of weapons here. Looks like, a gun that the Joker would use here with the long barrel. Nice bazooka or RPG shotgun. This one you could probably give to Peacemaker if you wanted to. Mac 10. I don't know the name of all these guns. Tommy gun. These will probably could go well with Red Hood. And of course, like I said, yeah, they show them with Spawn figures, but we all know that these are really primarily geared towards the DC Universe collector. But I was surprised. So first of all, I thought the price on this was fairly reasonable. $15 for an entire weapons pack like this. Sold as an online exclusive. You have to get these through the McFarlane store. So I actually think that's a fairly reasonable price for that many guns. But I noticed, people were like, well, these should be free because, I already paid for the figure and stuff. And I'm like, you just can't make people happy no matter what. Now, I will tell you, I have enough, we've talked about this before. I have enough guns from previous old figures that I don't have a huge need to buy more. So, I doubt I would buy this. Like I say, like some of these guns, if you wanted to arm up your G.I. Joe classified figures, these would probably work pretty good. So I think it's a pretty good idea. I think I think it's nice. We got. Thank you, brother, for the Trek Obi. Is that combining Star Wars and Star Trek? Thank you for keeping us all steadily entertained over so many years with action figure news. When are you inviting us over to the game room? Now we should have like, I don't know if any of you guys have any of these arcade 1-ups, but if you do and you have like online access, we should do like an online thing one day. But thank you, man, for the super chat donation. It is always much appreciated, and the kind words. My guess is these guns will work pretty well with 6-inch figures. So if that's what you mean by wrong scale, I mean, yeah, technically they're for 7-inch figures, but I think they'll work for 6-inch figures. I don't think they're going to be that drastically bigger than what you would get with a 6-inch figure. I could be wrong, but is it true Marvel? No, it's not true. Target still carries Marvel Legends. I mean, it's only available on the McFarlane Store website, but I mean, you can go pre-order it now. So, I mean, if you want it, it shouldn't be too hard for you to get. But it's not like it's going to be available everywhere. It is a McFarlane Store exclusive. Ogie, do I have any feelings on what's going on with Articulated Ninja and Iron Ken? I don't, since I'm not sure what that's a reference to. That is true, 3M. However, probably most people don't have 3D printers just sitting around. I know I don't. I mean, I spent $25 to get a gun for Peacemaker from an individual who I'm sure made it from a 3D printer. Now I got the gun, I got the holster, which is to me as important as the gun. If you don't have a holster to go with your Peacemaker figure, then the gun's not as good. So, I got the combo. But still, I mean, I paid $25 more than the figure itself to get an accurate looking Peacemaker gun and holster and some magazines. So I feel like $15 is still a pretty good price. Do I think they would release an effects? I think a lot will depend on how well this set sells. If this set sells really well for them, then my guess is you'll see more packs with maybe different weapons, maybe throwing in some, energy type effects and things like that. But yes, I think if this sells well for them, that could open the door for them doing more things. And then if other companies see that this sells well, then I could see them maybe following suit as well. So I think a lot will just depend on, I heard people say, well, McFarlane's doing them. Will Hasbro start doing accessory packs? Maybe. But, again, a lot's probably going to depend on how many people actually really buy it. Because like I said, for me, I think it's cool. I think these are pretty good, weapons and stuff. But I just have so many guns from old figures laying around that to me, it's, while, I don't think it's a bad price, it's just not something I feel like I really need. So I probably will not get one. And I don't know how many people fall in that kind of same category, because as much as people complain about like the DC figures not getting weapons, if you're a new collector, that certainly is understandable that you probably don't have a lot of guns and accessories laying around. But, so I think it's going to depend. But we'll see how the sales do on this. I mean, not that they're going to actually tell us, but I think, people can get a kind of a good idea, if it sells out or something like that. Do I think the third Moon Knight figure in the Disney Plus wave? No, I don't. I don't think there's another Moon Knight figure in the Disney Plus wave. I think they would have revealed it last week, like last Friday, if there was another Moon Knight figure. I was wondering after I watched the season finale, if it was going to be, the girl, if she was going to be one of the figures in the Disney Plus wave. But when they didn't show it off at like Marvel.com, at the end of the week, my guess is that is not going to be Moon Knight is not going to be another Moon Knight figure is not going to be in the wave. I can't say that 100%, but I feel like if there was another Moon Knight figure in the wave, they would have shown it off after the show ended. So my guess is probably the next two figures are going to be based on the Miss Marvel series, and then the last figure, the third figure, I have no idea. I know one of the figures is going to be Miss Marvel. So that means there's two completely unknown figures left in the wave. One of those two probably will be another character from the Miss Marvel series or another version of Miss Marvel or something like that. And then the final figure, I don't know. I don't know if it'll be from Miss Marvel. I kind of feel like it would be hard to have three figures from Miss Marvel, but I don't know what the final figure would be. And I don't think it's going to be She-Hulk, because I think this wave, at least originally, was going to be out before the She-Hulk series would have aired. So originally this wave was supposed to be out this summer. So I don't think it will take until next year for it to be released, but it may not get released until this winter. But I think originally this wave was supposed to be out before the She-Hulk series was going to premiere. So I don't think She-Hulk is going to be the final figure in this wave. I think She-Hulk will probably be in the next wave. But that still leaves, what is going to be the final figure in this wave. But I don't think it's going to be Moon Knight based. Even though I'm surprised. I was really kind of expecting them to show off like the Scarab character as another figure in this wave, but the reveal didn't come, and so I think that means that it's not going to happen, at least not in this wave. They could do it in a later wave, but Jerry says he thought Moon Knight had a strong ending after having a couple of weak episodes. I thought my overall feeling was I felt like the overall story probably could have been done in less episodes, and so I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. But I thought like the acting of Oscar Isaacs was top notch. I think he did a great job of portraying the different personalities of Mark Spector, flipping around. I thought the ending, like the after credit scene ending, was good. I really like that kind of twist. So I would have kind of liked to have seen more develop in the story, but I felt like there was a lot of good things in the show overall. Now I've heard, and I don't know if this is 100%, but I've heard that there are not plans for another season of Moon Knight. So again, I don't know if that's 100%, but but that seems to be the rumblings going around that there will not be another season of Moon Knight. So that makes me wonder, if or when we see Moon Knight again. I can't imagine we wouldn't see him again somewhere, but I don't know if we're going to get another season of Moon Knight or not. I mean, I have not been blown away by any of the Disney Plus Marvel shows yet. I haven't hated any of them. The closest one I came to hating was the WandaVision series, but I have also not been like wowed, like, oh my god, this was so incredible with any of the Marvel Disney Plus shows. There's things about each of them that I've liked. I, in general, don't like that, like, it's like trying to watch it's like one big giant long episode and it just kind of draws out in the middle, usually with most of the shows. I wish they kind of did a more episodic nature, which had like maybe an underlying storyline, but was a little more episodic. I think that would maybe make them better, in my opinion. Um, but again, Moon Knight definitely had some solid things, some solid acting. I love the look of Moon Knight in the show. I thought the costume design was really good on it, and some of the other effects, like when the gods were kind of fighting, it got a little shaky, but overall, like I said, didn't hate it, didn't think it was like the best thing in the world, but definitely I would be interested to see Moon Knight pop up again, somewhere in the MCU. If not in another season, then somewhere else. It's possible. I mean, that to me, like the overall thing with the MCU is just not clear where things are going. There are so many, like, in the first, starting with the first Iron Man movie and leading up to Endgame, there was a pretty clear direction of where things were going. First of all, it was the formation of the Avengers team, and then it was basically, leading up to Thanos. But now it's just like there's so many threads going on all over the place that it is really like, where is everything going to be brought back together at some point? Or are we just going to now continue to go off in all these different directions? I mean, we've got like the scroll thing still floating out there. We've got the multiverse thing that's floating out there. We've got, just normal hero stuff, I guess, with like Captain America and things like that. So to me, the Eternals, we've got the cosmic aspect of the Eternals. We've got, so it's just, to me, there's not like a clear direction of what we're building up to. And so to me, that makes things, I don't know, kind of convoluted, confusing. Every time I go to like a movie, even with the Doctor Strange movie, which I'm not going to go into spoilers, but, I liked it overall, but I still didn't come out of the theater with like, okay, this is the direction that the MCU is going right now. And so I'm still just kind of lost of, when we're going to see like the actual X-Men or the actual Fantastic Four from this universe, or, things like that. So that's what I'm still kind of waiting for, is to get a sense of where all this stuff is actually headed to. Bean says he thinks it's going to be rudderless and that may be a possibility, I mean, the honest to God truth is that I think they had planned out the stuff that we're seeing now, and then they got thrown this curveball when Disney bought 20th Century Fox, and basically then had access to the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. And so I feel like that kind of maybe threw a wrench into things, which is why maybe they're not going quite as smooth. I mean, they had a clear plan from the moment they did the first Iron Man movie. I'm pretty sure they had a clear plan of where they were going from point A to, point B, Avengers Endgame, so there was like a well thought out plan story in place to get them from the beginning to the end. But I just don't feel like necessarily that is that kind of well thought out plan is there getting us to wherever we're going now. And I'm not sure if that's just because there's so much, and also just because now we've got all these Disney Plus shows that they're trying to do, because they're, essentially the Marvel and Star Wars stuff is what's keeping the Disney Plus streaming service afloat right now. I mean, I don't think many people would be subscribing to Disney Plus if it wasn't for those Star Wars and Marvel shows. So, they basically have to keep those going, and so it's just so much stuff now, and then, like I said, the addition of the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, I feel like they're having difficulties kind of really ironing out the story. Now I saw something where they went on this retreat here, Kevin Feige and I guess a bunch of writers and stuff, they went on a retreat where they essentially were going to plan out the next 10 years of the MCU. So hopefully, maybe even if things remain a little bumpy here, eventually we'll get to a point where it will be where the bigger picture will be kind of more in focus, I guess you could say. Neil, I believe the next Thundercats reveal is going to be that Mumra LJN variant, but I don't think that's part of a wave. I did not confirm that, but my feeling is that's going to be a standalone. I mean, we just got the newest wave revealed, a month ago. So I'd find it hard pressed that we're going to get another wave revealed already. So I think the next Thundercats reveal is going to be that Mumra, but again, my feeling is that's going to be a standalone. And that's probably, my guess is, I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't get officially revealed tomorrow. Tomorrow or when, or no, tomorrow is Wednesday. So yeah, I think it'll be tomorrow. Thomas says, if Marvel wasn't on Disney Plus, I'd be going. I'm right there with you. I mean, Star Wars and Marvel, it's the combo of the two. And Mandalorian, I mean, The Mandalorian is by far the best TV show on the air right now. Hands down, no, all around right now, I feel like Mandalorian is one of the best shows out there right now. So Mandalorian for me is almost alone enough to keep my subscription going. The Book of Boba Fett was okay, but obviously it tied in heavily with Mandalorian. I think that was probably, those were the best parts of the Book of Boba Fett season. But yeah, if it wasn't for Marvel and Star Wars, I definitely, I mean, me and my wife watch the old reruns of the Muppet Show sometimes, but that's really about it. I really don't watch Disney Plus very much beyond that. Season 3, I believe, starts in December. So we got to wait till the end of the year, unfortunately. We've got Obi-Wan coming up at the end of this month, and then I'm not sure. I think the Cassian Andor series, I think, comes after that. The guy from the Rogue One movie. Daniel says, "Is for Ultimates? Is there? Uh, that's a good question. I don't. I mean, trying to think. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything I would just be dying to have. I mean, like a line like Mask comes to mind, but I don't know if I'd spend $55 a figure for Mask. And to me, Mask is a line that really you have to have the vehicles along with the figures, and that would be really, really expensive if we were talking 6-inch scale. So I don't know. Chuck, thank you once again for the super chat donation. please explain toy making costs, distribution costs. Well, uh, explain in what it costs money to make things and it costs money to distribute things. I don't have a specific cost breakdown for you on those if that's what you mean. But as far as distribution or factory, if that's what you mean, factories, smaller companies that make smaller number of products. So just to keep numbers simple, say you've got Super 7, a small company, and they place an order at a factory overseas. And again, this is just a number I'm pulling out of my ass and keeping it small just for the sake of example. But say they order 5 figures, okay? So that the factory is going to look at that and say, you only want 5 figures? Man, that's hardly any money for us. We're going to put you down at the bottom of the line. We're going to give the guy who's ordering 50 figures over here, the Hasbro or the Mattel that's ordering 50 figures, he's going to get the priority. He's going to get the discount. He's going to get the bulk discount because he's buying more, and he's going to get the better service because he's got the priority. So the small guy gets screwed because they're catering to a much smaller demographic. Their product's not carried at mass retail, where places like Target and Walmart, where even if they're only ordering 1 or 2 cases, if every store ordered 1 or 2 cases, that's a lot of action figures. So their orders are much smaller, and they have to pay more, and they don't get as good a service, basically. Again, the industry is not really set up very much to cater to the small independent guy. As far as costs go and stuff, I mean, there's all kinds of things that go into that. Plastics, you got to hire people to make the figures. You got to hire people to sculpt the prototypes. Sculpting and making an actual prototype is probably, from my understanding, and I'm not an expert. I've never made an action figure. I've never gone through the process myself, but having those actual prototypes made, from what I understand, is like some of the most expensive part of having an action figure produced. And then you got to send those to the factory, and you got to hope that the factory doesn't lose them or damage them or things like that. And it's just a very expensive and tedious process. And again, the smaller you are, the less pull that you have, basically. Inhumanoids. I can't say Inhumanoids was a toy line I ever was that much into. An obscure toy line that might be kind of cool. I think they were called Christ Stars or something. Well, they were basically translucent figures. I remember collecting some of those back in the day. There was a comic book series, like basically, I think they were made from like some type of crystalline material or something. But they were essentially translucent type figures. D&D, I mean, I would love to see, like a lot of people, I'd love to see like D&D animated series figures. So if Hasbro or, WizKids don't ever give us those, then, that's a line that I wouldn't mind maybe seeing Super 7 be able to take a crack at. I think it was like CHRY and then maybe star, I think it is how it was spelled, something like that. Or CRY, something like that. But it was a play on crystal, I think is what it was. Secretus is coming back. So the Nacelle company is doing Secretus figures. So they haven't said what scale they're going to be. So, but they have said that they are doing those. So those are actually making a comeback. I mean, I can't believe Hasbro wouldn't give us what once the D&D movie comes out like it's supposed to. I would find it hard to believe that Hasbro wouldn't do like 6-inch animated series figures. So I feel like eventually we will get those. Yeah, that's your yep, that's it. There was a Marvel comic series because I had one or two issues of that, and then I had a couple of the figures. I don't really remember a whole lot about it. I just remember having them. I don't know. It's certainly not right away because just like with the Spider-Man No Way Home figures, I doubt Hasbro had any inclination that those were going to be in the movie. So if they do them, they're probably just now starting to work on them. So it wouldn't be something we would see probably for at least a year, but it's certainly possible. I've not heard anything for new Daredevil, but being that Daredevil seems to be, I think we're going to be seeing more and more in the MCU. My guess is something down the road will come. Ninja Knight. I don't know if the McFarlane store ships internationally or not. I have not looked on that, but I do know that set. Well, at least here in the United States, it's possible. A lot of times, McFarlane will release stuff like that through retailers overseas. I've not heard anything about it, but and again, I don't know if the McFarlane store ships internationally or not. I have not looked at that. John says the build a figure from the Multiverse of Madness wave is the most useless so far. Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, it's not a bad looking figure, but as far as the character goes, yeah, it didn't have a whole lot of impact in the movie. Visionaries, I wouldn't mind seeing some cool Visionary figures. I think it's not a line that I really collected as a kid, but I had maybe one figure. No idea. I doubt as far or as like a movie, but I'm sure we will see them. Yeah, the Minotaur guy from the is the build a figure. Everett says he guarantees they're going to make all the members from the Illuminati. The only reason why I would possibly say they wouldn't is since those weren't like the main MCU versions, they may wait until we see those before they start doing figures. So I don't know. But I do feel like again, if they are going to, it's probably not something we would see for like a year. I agree, though. It's worth checking if you really want a good lockjaw. It's worth checking out the Mezco 112 collective one. That was a pretty good figure. Coco says Renatar didn't do shit in the movie or in the comics either. Yeah, I gotta be honest. I was not familiar with that character when that figure was shown off. I was like, okay, who's that? I mean, again, it's kind of a cool design, but wasn't something I was familiar with. But then I got to be honest, like I read Doctor Strange comics in the early '90s, but I was not a huge Doctor Strange fan as far as the comics go. So I only read it. I only read a few. Like he had an ongoing series for a little while in the early '90s, and I collected that and I read that. But that's about it. Like I have not read a lot of the earlier, 70s Doctor Strange titles, which I think is probably when a lot of people, older people at least, really started to get into Doctor Strange. So I would definitely not would Zombie Strange seems like a very just because everybody seems to love zombies. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Hasbro doesn't do that at some point, especially since all that would need them to do is take the Target exclusive figure and just essentially give us a new head sculpt and some new hands. So I definitely feel like that's probably going to happen at some point. Capona Bear, thank you much, brother. Been catching me on the rewind, but glad I made it to live. Glad you made it, brother. Yeah, I know I've been kind of jumping around. I don't know. I keep doing like I keep waffling back. Like I like doing the live streams, but sometimes I feel like two live streams in a week gets to be a little much. But then I'm like at most, as far for the YouTube algorithm, it's good to try and do 5 videos a week. But usually at absolute most 3 news videos is the much I can do, and that's really if it's like this week has been a pretty slow news week. Last week was too, so trying to get out 3 news videos a week when it's slow like this is not easy. And then it's like, do I do a review, which honestly people don't watch usually that much, or do I try and do 2 live streams or what? So but yeah, I appreciate you guys who always seem to manage to catch me on the live stream, and always much appreciated. Well, the thing about so if as far as like clearance, the problem is the most recent Marvel Legend waves have been primarily, I mean, movie stuff, right? These solid movie waves that are not releasing really in conjunction with the movies, right? They're either late or they're early from the movies. And let's be honest, like the Eternals, I mean, Hasbro had to do the Eternals. Disney, I think pretty much requires that Hasbro has to do figures based on every movie that comes out, and probably at least a couple of figures from every Disney Plus show, because the studios use these figures as promotion for their movies. So it's kind of like a stipulation with these licenses. Same thing with like DC and McFarlane. That's why you always see like movie waves and stuff. They have to basically do those. Now, I do think in many ways movie stuff can be more popular because that's what the young kids see, and that encourages them to go out and buy the figures, or the parents go out and buy the figures. And stores, I think, generally do order more movie, larger numbers of the movie waves than they do like just the comic book waves. So even though you might see them sitting on pegs getting clearanced out, that doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't sell. It just means they didn't sell through all of their stock, but there was probably a lot more stock of the movie figures than there was like any of the comic book waves. And of course, some of the comic book waves set there too, like the X-Men wave with the Age of Apocalypse stuff. I mean, I was really surprised that Hasbro did a second wave of those, because it seemed like the first wave really did not sell very well and kind of just sat there on shelves. And the second wave did too and got clearanced out at places like Amazon and stuff. So I was really surprised. I mean, I know there were people who wanted them to do a second wave, but it just didn't seem like the sales were there. So I feel like that kind of maybe burnt them a little bit. But part of it's just been that it's been so movie centric recently because of the way the movies are releasing and all that, that's why you're seeing stuff like the Eternals. I mean, I go to Target and I still see the Eternal figures sitting on the discount shelf. I mean, even discounted, they're not moving that well. So, and that movie it was not received well. It was the designs from an action figure standpoint, I think, were maybe a little bit kind of boring. They all kind of, I don't know, so I don't think and I guess where I'm going with this is I don't necessarily think that Marvel Legends has lost appeal. I just think it's a combination of just like this movie wave after movie wave hitting stores, and then not really timing with the movies themselves. Some of the movies like Eternals not being received as well by fans, and so that's just kind of led to where it is. And now, like, other than like on the discount shelf with those Eternal figures that have been sitting out for months, I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot new in the way of Marvel Legends. I mean, I saw the Doctor Strange wave that was out on shelves. That actually seemed to move a little bit better. I mean, that certainly moved better, I think, than the Eternals wave. Obviously, like the Target exclusive Doctor Strange, that ended up getting clearanced out. A lot of Targets clearanced that out. But once they marked it down, my Target at least sold out of all of those Doctor Strange figures. But like, how well will we see the X-Men, the Bone Crusher wave? I think that wave is going to be a little bit harder to get unless you pre-ordered it or something. But finding it on shelves, I have a feeling that wave is going to be a little bit harder to get because probably Targets and Walmarts aren't going to have ordered that wave in its large number. And then same thing with the Iron Man wave with the U.S. Agent figure and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a little bit harder to get at retail, like at Walmart and Target, just finding it on the shelves. So, I mean, we'll have to see how it goes, but thanks, Mr. iPhone. Quinn's Comic says, what it boils down to is character selection. And like the Spider-Man wave, I didn't think that was that super exciting of a wave, but I have not seen those figures sitting on the shelves too much. So again, that's another wave where I think the movie was really popular, and so those figures sold a lot better. Of course, Spider-Man, I think, always sells better. So, it's really just kind of the Eternals wave that really kind of sat there. The Shang-Chi wave, which, again, that was another movie that was the timing of the figures was really off from the movie release. And then it was a fairly unknown character. I don't think most people knew who Shang-Chi was. And, those figures, a lot of those figures were kind of, they were accurate to the movie, but they weren't like what you would think from a traditional, superhero type look for characters, meaning the costumes. So I just, Shang-Chi, Eternals, I think, kind of bogged down a little bit, but, with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, I think they've picked back up. And then, like I said, we'll have to see how well or how much stores carry the next X-Men wave and the next Iron Man wave, or Avengers wave, whatever you want to call the one with the U.S. Agent and the Speedball and stuff. Which of course that's the wave I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for that wave because I want the Speedball figure, I want the U.S. Agent figure, the Blue Marvel figure. I'll probably definitely get that. That to me is probably the wave I'm looking forward to the most, coming out here in the near future. So somebody talk, I said Bonebreaker, didn't I? The Reaver. Oh yeah, Black Widow. That was another one. Yeah, definitely Black Widow kind of sat on the shelves as well, and that one where the timing of the movie was way off. And even with like these Disney Plus waves, I mean, I doubt it's going to be, right now, e-tailers are listing the Disney Plus wave with a 2023 release. I don't think it will take quite that long to get out. But clearly, a lot of the shows that the wave is based on will have long since come and gone by the time those figures actually, hit the shelves. Did I say Bone Crusher? My bad. What? You didn't get U.S. Agent? How could you not get U.S. Agent? That's the best figure in the wave, man. Can't be ditching my dissing my John Walker, man. No, I haven't really, but anyone who thinks Target's going to quit carrying Marvel Legends, I think they're high. Um, it may be that there's a delay in stock, so like I said, everything that's going on in the shipping world and stuff, I mean, that's causing a lot of havoc with stuff. All the shutdowns over in China with the COVID, the zero COVID tolerance, that's continuing to screw things up. So I know it's frustrating on our part, but it's probably frustrating on these toy companies' part as well, and these retailers as well. So, you know, but no, if somebody started to say that Target's going to drop Marvel Legends, I wouldn't believe them. Um, it's just I don't know when the next wave is going to come out. I mean, GameStop has only gotten like a couple of the figures for that X-Men wave. Obviously a lot of the places are ordering solid cases of the figures. And so what we're starting to see happen now is solid cases is good for, popular figures to make sure that they're well stocked. But the problem is you're only getting half you're only getting some of the figures in the wave. So like you've got three figures in a wave that are now hitting the shelves. And then like people are like, where are the rest of the figures in the wave? Well, they haven't arrived yet. And so like with GameStop, we saw, the Siren figure and the Wolverine figure have started to ship from GameStop, but that's it, I believe. I don't think they've shipped out any of the other X-Men figures. And I think it's because they were ordering solid cases of the figures and they must have only gotten those two, the cases for those two figures in, and none of the other figures from the wave. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see that more and more because I think these days a lot of the retailers are ordering solid cases, not just a case of all the figures in one case. They might eventually. I mean, they did Venom eventually, so I wouldn't be surprised if eventually they do Morbius. They're not going to do a Morbius wave, but they might stick a Morbius movie figure in a upcoming Spider-Man wave at some point. I don't think that's impossible. A Sabretooth is showing up now. I've seen, like, I know some places overseas have gotten other figures in the wave. I didn't know if Sabretooth had shown up here in the US yet, but again, going back to these Target rumors, if like I said, if somebody's trying to say Target's dropping Marvel Legends, I don't think that's the case. I wouldn't panic. Not that that would necessarily be a bad thing. You know, my view is always support the small guy, not the Target. Unless it's a store exclusive, why buy from Target? You know, support the small e-tailer, even if you got to wait a little bit longer. Freedom, if you didn't already find it, it might be too late because I have a feeling. I think if there were targets that were still sitting on that figure, I think they already clearanced them, and I think once they clearanced, I think people went in and started buying them up. I won't swear to it, but I know my Target had like 5 of them sitting on the shelf, and then I think they went on clearance. And like right after I heard they were being put on clearance, I went to Target and there was none available. So if you missed out on the clearance, it might be too late. Neil says he would love a movie accurate Morbius. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if down the road they don't give us one. KJ said, "What's my best clearance aisle toy find ever?" God, I don't usually. Some of those like Marvel Legend Infinity Saga figures. Well, like like this Christmas, I bought the Odin figure for $8. Now I bought it online from Walmart, I think, but it was like $8. So that was probably a pretty good. And that's the only reason why I got it. I wasn't gonna get that figure, and then I was like $8. I can't pass that by. So there's been some pretty good clearance deals on some of those Infinity Saga figures. Jerry says he forgot there was a Morbius movie. I haven't seen the Morbius movie yet. I heard it was god awful, but those let me see. Are those gonna? I think those have been up for pre-order. Let me just. Well, they're up for pre-order. Like Big Bad Toy Store has them listed with a September release, so I haven't heard anything to contradict that. I actually just picked up Wave One. Um, I ordered it from Big Bad Toy Store, and they just arrived this week. So I just got my hands on Wave One. Jar Jar, he's worth $8. I still, even on discount, I did not get the Jar Jar figure. I probably should have. Everett, I'm not sure. I think it's a smooth shield. I think it's just a repaint of one of the comic book shields, but of Captain America. But I don't know for sure. Yeah, I would like this, like in that, going back to that villains for hire storyline with U.S. Agent leading the Thunderbolts. I like that Thunderbolt shield where he had like the Thunderbolt symbol painted in the middle of his shield. Jerry says he got 9 Jar Jars from Ollie's to build a Gungan army. That's dedication, man. Darth Clueless found Clone Wars for $10. What got positive reviews? Morbius? No, I didn't see any positive reviews. I would my I hope we get a good comic book Mandarin figure here soon. Spaceballs, a Super Patriot? I'd go for it. I'm not sure many people would recognize him as Super Patriot. He really wasn't Super Patriot for very long in the comics. But they'd have to give, if they do Super Patriot, they got to give him that little. He had that little electro dagger thing. Oh, Doctor Strange. Yeah, Doctor Strange got pretty good reviews. I will tell you though, like like it definitely had a little more of a horror feel to it, because Sam Raimi was doing it. So I give it that, but it wasn't like there was no point in the movie where I was like scared. I've seen some people like, oh man, I was actually scared at some. I was like, yeah, no, I, definitely some like some effects that were very horrorish like, but there was nothing that was really what I would have considered to be truly scary in that movie. I mean, maybe for a young kid, yes, but not for like an adult. Yeah, Mandarin. I definitely feel like we need a new Mandarin figure. I mean, Toy Biz did one back in the days, which was pretty good for the time, but we definitely need a new one. I would go for a Slide. Slide was a cool character from Spider Man. I would go for Slide. I didn't give any spoilers. I just said it wasn't super scary. Yeah, John Walker started out as Super Patriot. screen. But yeah, this was John Walker's original look as Super Patriot, and he first appeared in Captain America. This is actually his first appearance. I have this issue. So if they ever did a Super Patriot figure, they would need to give him this Electro Blade. But you are correct. There was an Image comic version of Super Patriot as well, but the John Walker version came first. But yeah, this guy was also named Super Patriot. What's up, Devon? I have yet to watch that New Mutants movie, so I couldn't tell you. I had heard that one. It was definitely had more of a horror feel. I'm not a huge horror fan, so you know I'm not really into horror movies that much. Yeah, I definitely would go for a Battlestar figure. What's up, Dark Hero? Not anything particular. We've just been kind of shooting the shit tonight. West Coast Avengers movie. That was I always liked the West Coast Avengers better than the regular Avengers title back in the day. In fact, I think I started reading West Coast Avengers before I started reading regular Avengers. I didn't watch the New Mutants movie because A, at that point I knew, Disney was buying 20th Century Fox, so I knew there was no way it was going to ever continue into anything. Plus it just never really seemed like the New Mutants to me. Ash versus Marvel Zombies. What's up, Captain Morgan? Thanks, man. Master Pandemonium? Yeah, a comic book version? Yeah, I could go for that. I don't know how you would do like the little demons that come out of his sleeve. I don't know how you'd capture that in an action figure, but Great Lake Avengers with special guest star Deadpool. They're definitely setting something up with Young Avengers. I don't know exactly what, but yeah, I would say you're right. Have I heard of Chainsaw Man? No, I can't say off the top of my head I have. Alpha Flight movie? I'd rather see Thunderbolts than Dark Avengers. See, I do hope that in the MCU they do something like where they create the Thunderbolts with like U.S. Agent leading the team. That I definitely would be kind of interested to see. I don't know. Every time a new wave of figures comes out, I'm always like, that's probably it. I mean, it's been so long since the game came out, but they seem to still be cranking them out. So I think we probably still continue to see them. I mean, as long as they sell, they'll probably keep doing them. Abomination and Titania. Well, we've got Abomination from Marvel Legends, but we need a Titania figure. She's been missing for a while. I remember the first comic I read with those two was, I think it was an Amazing Spider-Man comic, and like Titania was like, she had all these doubts about herself. The original New Warriors I could go for. I love Night Thrasher. I wouldn't mind seeing like just a Night Thrasher series with a skateboard. I mean, that'd be cool. Nah, U.S. Agent better leader than Hawkeye. I'd rather. I mean, to be true to Thunderbolts, it probably should start off with Baron Zemo, but I would like to see U.S. Agent. Like, like Zemo could be the leader, but U.S. Agent the field. Can you see me now? Am I still frozen? All right, good. I don't know what happened there. Looks like maybe the internet crapped out or something. How long was I frozen for? I was just like sitting there talking and chatting, and because the comments were moving and everything, I was reading your comments, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Jay's frozen." I'm like, what? Well, unfrozen or not, it is going on 8 o'clock, so I think I am going to wrap it up tonight before I freeze again. But yeah, Salome was here. I don't know, she left. So yeah, it's not unusual. I often am just sitting here talking to my cat, so that's definitely not unusual. All right, guys. But as always, I do appreciate you guys sitting through, especially while I was frozen. And right now, I'm going to say leaning towards probably we'll do another live stream on Thursday. Maybe we'll go into spoilers for Doctor Strange. Hopefully, by then, most of you will have had a chance to see it if you haven't already. I won't say 100%, but leaning towards that direction right now. Should have a news video up tomorrow. And then who knows what I'm going to do on Friday. But as always, guys, stay safe out there, and until next time, I will catch you guys later. Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News Message Boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great.